are back to our regular daily schedule. Sorry that I delayed today by 2 hours. That was absolutely my fault. I had an overrun meeting schedule pretty much all day today. And so I didn't want to push this and keep pushing by 50 minutes or something. So I just told Fabio, let's get on the call after I put the kids to bed. And so that's perfect timing right now. I know Fabio has a call afterwards, so we need to be spot on time. But I think we have great topics to discuss. We have obviously a bit of the war drama in the Middle East. We're not gonna pretend to be geopolitical experts here. At least I'm definitely not one. And we're more going to talk a bit about crypto. What could it mean for crypto, rather than speculating on what could go and happen in the Middle East. We're gonna share a little bit about the crazy rain that's happening in Dubai. Fabio was so funny. I got on the call with him, and he was like, "What did these guys do to me? What did you say? I'm a freaking
They
mermaid.
did me dirty. They definitely did me dirty.
I'm a freaking mermaid." I didn't see the thumbnail yet. I hadn't seen it, so I looked at it and I had like a laugh flash. I thought it was hilarious. That was hilarious. We're gonna talk about Hong Kong ETF. We're gonna talk about halving that's gonna happen in the next 3 to 4 days, whenever it's gonna happen. And yeah, I think we're gonna have a nice kind of rundown. Fabio, how's the community? Give us a bit of the big picture here. What are you experiencing here? Give us a bit of the kind of intro to all this.
Yeah, sometimes things really align for the memes. There's so many good puns for Dubai right now for the token event that's currently going on. It's one big liquidity pool liquidated. I saw from Zero Hedge. So there's definitely a lot of good puns, and for the halving as well. I mean, we are going to have a halving on 420. I mean, come on. So like as Elon says, it faith really loves irony, and the memes, there's so much great meme potential just for these two things. And yeah, otherwise I don't know, I think there's a lot of hype going on for the upcoming halving, and for I guess Dubai kind of plays into that. um, and yeah, I don't know, where do you want to start?
I don't know. Why don't we? Do you want to give should I give a brief recap of what happened over the weekend and why we had a bit of a crash? Or do you want to give a bit of a summary of that and then we dive in a bit?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay, just to cut a long story short and without, I don't know, I want to stay really neutral in all this. On October 6th, October 7th, I can't remember, there was this surprise attack on Israel by Hamas, and that led to a massive retaliation from Israel against the entire Palestina, against the entire Gaza, and yeah, that has been going on over the past couple of months. I think a month ago, one of the leaders of that, and or one of the kind of masterminds of that entire attack on Israel, then got killed by the Israelis. I can't remember exactly where or how. It had somehow this was tied to Iran, and that led to a retaliation strike by Iran over the weekend. That was kind of premeditated. A lot of the secret agencies were kind of discussing this, and there was also a bit of this discussion that a lot of the surrounding Muslim countries actually went and supported Israel in the defense, which was actually quite interesting to see a bit there. So, the US kind of stepped in and said, "We are going to help Israel on the defense. We are not going to help on the offense." The European nations, obviously UK, Germany, France, and so on, also they kind of went along with that. And so now everyone was kind of waiting with this attack. What's going to happen? Is Israel going to retaliate? And then the stories were Israel will. There will be a massive kind of attack. To my knowledge, at least, I mean, I didn't check in the afternoon, but I think to my knowledge, this retaliation strike from Israel hasn't happened yet. But with all that, and that's a typical kind of scenario during these geopolitical tensions, all risk on assets really kind of had a setback. Stocks really went down, crypto went down. Gold, oil did relatively well during this time. Gold bucks like Fabio, you have been cheering massively over the past couple of months. Gold has done insanely well. Like secretly, Fabio is in love with Peter Schiff. Yeah, so well done, well done. And yeah, and so that's where we are. And so now obviously it's a bit of a question: where is Bitcoin gonna go from here? Where's crypto gonna go from here? But before I kind of, I don't know, go a bit here, I don't know, did I forget anything from your point of view? Anything you wanted to add, maybe? Are there additional things you saw around those, and then maybe just kind of tag along from here?
Yeah, maybe just a side note on Peter Schiff. Because once upon a time, I really was kind of in love with him. There was a video. I don't know when this was. I would estimate this to be in 2010 or so ish. And Peter Schiff went to the Occupy Wall Street demos in
Yeah,
front of Wall Street and just with a mic and went to people and said, debate me.
uh, that was him.
And
That was him.
yeah, and
Wow.
this video, it has millions, I think 50 million, 60 million views on YouTube. It's just him going there and debating random people on the street. And I mean, you got to give it to him. He's very he has a lot of humor when it comes to all of this. I mean
Dude, he
being
definitely does, and he can handle this bashing for years, years. And
10
like
years, more than 10
we
years.
discussed this 2 weeks ago when he made this tweet, or I don't know when this was, like I don't know, 10 days ago. Where he said Bitcoin is down, the gold and silver are up this quarter, and
I mean, he's been waiting more than 10 years for this. Last time gold pumped was in, I don't know, 2010. So it's been 14 years. And he hasn't got any younger during that time. I mean, yeah. So I don't know. Look, I'm very happy about gold. Of course, I've also been waiting for this for a very long time. The only kind of shadowy thing about gold pumping, it's usually not a good sign for other assets. It is a safe haven asset. It is something that kind of indicates unease and maybe distress or a flight to safety, whatever you want to call it. So not sure if it's a good sign that gold is up. We saw a bit of a drawdown in major risk assets, Bitcoin included, S&P, Nasdaq. Everything seems to be cooling down just a bit. Not in no way, of course. The Bitcoin to 10k, Bitcoin to 12k people are coming out of their closet again. But I wouldn't be. I'm not so stressed or worried about the immediate term. There are a few things that are super exciting when it comes to crypto and to Bitcoin in particular. So the things that I currently have an eye on. So of course, token is in my mind a bullish event, even though they are currently
you
drowning over
really think,
there.
because, but do you really think, because I always think those large crypto events at the end they always turn bearish for some weird reason. I don't know.
Fair enough. We definitely saw that with
Consensus. I mean, whenever New York has events, I don't know. It feels like all the time. Like when is Bitcoin? What's Bitcoin Austin this year? I don't know. Or Bitcoin Nashville. I don't even know what it is.
June or July, I think. Beginning of June or beginning of July. Yeah.
Always feels these are the bearish events for some weird reason.
It definitely was in May of 2021. I think the day of the Bitcoin conference marked the top, or the week of the Bitcoin conference. Yeah. So it's yeah okay. Let's leave the token event out. But so there are two or three things that we currently have going that are kind of bullish. So definitely the Hong Kong ETF. Definitely registered investment advisors that I'm still not sure if it's not somewhere between 10th of April and 10th of May is or 1st of May is the timing where they are allowed to buy the new Bitcoin ETFs. And then, of course, this is more a bit niche, but there's definitely a lot of hype around this. And this is the start of Rune's protocol on Bitcoin, which is going to hit with block
Saturday, right?
840,000 on halving. And it's crazy. So, it's definitely a bit niche. It's definitely very degen. But the hype around that is undeniable. Like I'm estimating, and I'm just going to make a prediction here. I think the first block that is going to be mined, so block 800,040 is probably going to be the most expensive and the most lucrative block in Bitcoin's history by far. Not only
Because of the minting. Or what
because
are
of
they
the minting.
calling? What are they
So
calling I saw the terms. How do they call it when a room gets created? There's a name for it. I forgot it now.
inscribing, minting.
No. They have like a very Rooney name. Maybe someone can write it in the chat. It's definitely a
So
very Rooney name.
I'm not fluent in runes, but what you need to imagine, I can lay out the basics so that people understand why this is a thing. So this protocol, Casey Ruthermore, he's basically the guy that invented this, and this is going to go live with the Bitcoin halving. And now you need to imagine you can kind of reserve names and tickers by inscribing this into a block. And this starts with 800,040. But and initially you have 13 letters, no more, no less, that you can inscribe. And every 4 months, a letter is taken away from that. And other than on Uniswap or on I don't know, CoinMarketCap, you can have several tickers with the same name, several projects with the same name. This is not possible with runes. You can only have it once. This means people are kind of running and front running and sniping for names. And if you want to be in the first block, and you definitely want to be in the first block if you're an established project, you need to attach a hefty fee to be the first one. The Bitcoin block with 840,000 is probably going to be the biggest and most expensive block ever, and maybe even in a while. So okay, look, you basically can reserve your name, 13 letters. Every 4 months, the letter is taken away, and everybody wants to get certain names, and it's basically a blind auction. So people are bidding with their transactions. So let's say, I don't know, 1,000 sets per VByte or whatever they wish to put into that transaction to reserve their names. And I think even afterwards, because so many mints are going to happen, and so many people want to mint their runes or pre-mine their runes, it's going to be insane. The mempool is probably going to be full for days. So if you want to do a wallet reorg or you need to do some Bitcoin transactions, I would highly recommend doing that before Friday, Saturday-ish, before we go into the halving. And I expect things really to kick off. If you're interested in looking into runes, Cointelegraph did a great piece on it. Bitcoin Echo has a great piece on it. Just type it on YouTube and kind of get familiar with the whole project. It's basically a new token standard so you had everything started with ordinals, then you had BRC20, and now you have runes that kind of each of them somewhat improves up on the last iteration. And so yeah, we have this going. And what else makes me bullish right now? Of course, the halving.
What is that? How about that? Okay. Monday, Hong Kong Bitcoin ETF. What do you think? Is yay, nay? How do you see it?
I think it's definitely bullish. I mean, another jurisdiction, and I think it's not only Hong Kong; it's also Korea that kind of falls underneath the same region or trading area.
Didn't know about that. Okay.
So it's basically money in the flood door for Hong Kong and for Korea goes open, and Hong Kong is famous for hedge funds or financial institutions in general. So I think there's definitely a bit of allocation waiting to come in. If it's the same amount of bullishness that we saw coming out of the US, probably not. But yeah, it's definitely neutral to bullish, more on the bullish side than on the neutral side, I would say.
Okay. Okay, maybe on the Hong Kong side, sure, it's not bearish. Let's say it this way. For me, the Hong Kong ETF is not bearish. I think that would be ridiculous. But whether it's bullish or not, I think it's quite neutral. I just don't think that. Let's be straightforward here. The reason Hong Kong is what it is because it is a gateway to China, and if something is offered in Hong Kong that cannot be used for the gateway to China, let's be fair, its utility is not that grand. It's not that great. To me, it reminds me a lot to Singapore. The massive value that Singapore has is not so much because of Singapore itself, it's because Singapore is the gateway to Southeast Asia. All of Southeast Asia loves Singapore because Singapore is this powerful neutral hub. Singapore, just for Singapore, is actually, it's a relatively small population. You have 5 million people. It's not so big, but the power is you have all these jurisdictions around. You have Malaysia, you have Indonesia, you have, in theory, you have also India, and so on. And Hong Kong to me is exactly the same, just more for the Greater China region. And because the Greater China region is still, or mainly mainland, is excluded from accessing Bitcoin via these ETFs, I don't know if that is so exciting. And the existing capital in Hong Kong, in my opinion, already had access to the ETFs, mainly via the US. So, yeah, I mean, it's not bearish, let's be clear, right? It makes no sense to be bearish. It's probably a bit bullish, you're right, but I don't think it's going to have that big bang kind of effect as the spot ETFs had in the US.
Yeah, fully aligned.
Yeah. Okay. Halving. My view on the halving, I think you have always known this view. I'm not the big halving believer. I think a lot of those cycles are more coincidence than anything else. I don't know. Which camp do you fall in?
So I'm fully aligned. The halving doesn't have that much of an impact, but we saw, I think, Coinbase, Binance, some of the ETF issuers really driving on the halving narrative. Kraken made a great ad as well, and they really try to illustrate what it means. And I think especially for newcomers that haven't been around for years and that haven't been there for the cycle, it's a very strong narrative. It's not because it has actual influence on supply and demand. Of course it does. But I think last week or the week before, we kind of made a comparison of how much impact it has. And on an average, I don't know the numbers today, but 2 weeks ago when I made the comparison, we have about 5,000 Bitcoins changing hands in a 24-hour period. And a halving impacts around 450 Bitcoin, meaning the impact on supply and demand is like 10% of the daily volume, so it's negligible. But a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people, they see, okay, the halving did a lot for the price in the past. You have big advertising agencies or big issuers like the ETF guys driving the narrative that it's going to have an impact, and we might just see a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's only narrative. It's not that it has substantial influence on supply and demand. It's not that the technicals of this are going to change everything, but it's what people believe. So maybe we will see the self-fulfilling prophecy coming true, but it's not. Yeah.
How
That
do
would be
you
my guess.
see? How do you see about the Middle East conflict? How do you see the? How do you see risk on assets like crypto, Bitcoin? How do you see that going?
So look, I'm no geopolitical expert, but the thing that I'm not 100% sure who said that. I think it was Snowden. He said the thing that is going to dominate this decade is war in cold places. He said, Antarctica, cyberspace, and or
Really?
maybe the
What
desert.
what was his? I have not seen this. What does he say, or what was his
Um,
reasoning
I
behind
think
it?
it was. I think it was Snowden. He said the quote was, I think, hot war in cold places. So it's basically proxy wars.
Mhm.
And look, of course, the
I
thing
mean, we're
that I'm
seeing this
scared.
in Ukraine. We're seeing this now in Israel. Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe cyberspace or space, outer space, or and there are a few other things that I'm a bit worried about. Of course, Taiwan would be on the list as well. I think it is a bit too overblown right now. I think it's not as bad as it seems, but who am I to judge? I have no clue. I listened into Mario Naval's Twitter space on it. I followed the live coverage a little bit, but I'm in no way capable to make any conclusions that of any relevance out of it. But right now, I just see a lot of bullish forces, especially us going into an election year. Jay Powell said we had seen the worst of inflation. They still promised some rate cuts. Biden is spending like crazy. I think there are more bullish things currently than bearish things. And the thing that we still don't really know is if we really see a war that would impact all of us, not just a proxy war, not just, of course, all war is bad, not want to downplay this in any way, but if we see a more substantial impact, like, for example, in the Middle East, that would have a substantial impact on oil prices, probably. And if this is becoming a bigger thing, an actual bigger conflict between Iran and Israel, we still don't know how Bitcoin or risk on assets in the United States would perform. There is two ways. That it is kind of a flight to safety, and people really value Bitcoin because government cannot touch it. But it could also be just performing as a risk on asset and just sell off because of uncertainty. So I still haven't made up my mind on how this would play out. Do you have a more substantial opinion on that, John?
I do, but mainly because I just studied a little bit on what happened in the past, and so I'm just kind of drawing a few parallels. I don't know if you know that, and if you do, then maybe give it a bit of time. But do you know what happened to the stock market in Israel, so the Israeli stock market, when Hamas attacked, I think October 6 or 7, I don't know. Do you know what happened on that day to the stock market?
I think I do.
Okay, what happened?
I think it had a super slight correction and went up
No, on
afterwards.
that day it really tanked. So it tanked massively, and I think it took like 2 3 days. It kept tanking, tanking, tanking. So I think it went down like really by 10% or something, like massively. But you're right. Since then, we're actually way higher than we were before the attack, right? And we have that even. I mean, in this case, what's important, and that's one of the huge lessons. So last week, it was on I can't remember when it was. I think Wednesday or Thursday. I had this emergency mastermind call on how to trade geopolitical events, right? And obviously, you had this geopolitical expert there who kind of predicted the last 50, I don't know, geopolitical events. Like, or what is the statement? Predicted 50 of the last 5 geopolitical events, right? So of course, so obviously he had a field trip on that entire kind of weekend. But so a couple of things that I just thought were interesting to listen, right? And he said two different types of geopolitical things. Obviously, if you have it in your region, most people act too slow and not aggressive enough. So what he always says, you need to go fast and you need to go far. So that's always what he says, fast and far, meaning capital yourself, you need to get it out of the region and you need to do it quick. If you panic early and get out quickly, right? Get your assets out, get yourself out, get your family out, and get far away. And so, but he said in this case, none in the call were either in Israel or in Iran. So he said, if you are actually outside, then the sad reality is, right now I want to be very clear, I'm not judging here, I'm just stating the sad reality is that war is very profitable for many, many companies and many, many, many people who actually benefit from that. And that's the sad part, because you have a lot of turnover, a lot of expenses in those jurisdictions, and this money goes somewhere. And obviously a lot is lost in the jurisdiction with corruption and so on, but a lot actually goes out to companies who either obviously provide weapons, but can provide a lot of things, even very, very sustainable things, building stuff and so on, construction and so on. So he said, the worst decision you can do is when these crashes happen, in these initial shock moments, that obviously if you can time it, and I mean, obviously he said that he can time it and blah, 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 but I just listened to him and I asked him how he sees this a bit differently to all the others, and I don't know, I couldn't really distinguish from him how he would be able to kind of select why this one was a real geopolitical kind of issue and why you should put up put options or something. Of course, in this case, whoever did was amazing, but it was just kind of crazy to hear a bit. And then, but he said the worst mistake you can do is when this crash happens, that then you panic. That's too late. What you need to do there is actually need to buy the dip, or just at least just stay put and stay still and don't do much. And so if you then look and backtest this, actually, I think over the last 10, 12 larger geopolitical crises, out of 10 or 12, there's maybe 2 where it took like 10 years for risk on assets to recover. But in all other instances, like I think 10 out of the 12, risk on assets recovered relatively quickly and actually did very well. So if I kind of look at this, then of course, during those geopolitical events, you have gold and oil traditionally who do well. But I can, if I just think of, and really, I mean, look, people always criticize me because, I don't know, sometimes I make this criticism around Bitcoin and then they think I don't like Bitcoin, but it's actually not true. I love Bitcoin, but I'm just critical of anything. I can be supportive of anything. I can be critical of anything. And I just think in these scenarios, actually Bitcoin should really shine, because I don't understand how Bitcoin cannot be super attractive during this time where, sure, I get the initial shock, but I still understand what happens during the shock, that afterwards Bitcoin is not at least as attractive as before. I just don't understand it. I think the difference would be if this would be a region that has a lot of purchase power for Bitcoin. Now, Israel definitely has some purchase power for Bitcoin. Iran definitely has some purchase power in Bitcoin. And of course, during these shock moments, a lot of people in these regions would rather sell their Bitcoins if they have any and just say, look, I need some food right now. I need some fuel right now. But other people will go and say, you know what? I need to leave. I need to leave fast, and I need to leave far. And Bitcoin is one of the best ways to leave and not really having to carry heavy stuff with you, right? Because you can go across a border with tens of millions of dollars, and all you need to remember is 24 words. That's extremely powerful. So I don't know. I think it's different. Let's say if the US went into a war, if was a war in the US, whatever this would look like. But I think in this case, this initial shock is going to happen. And I don't know. I just completely see how then Bitcoin could do well going forward, just because people can actually see and say, hey, suddenly the economy, and sadly, the economy with war somewhere else does really well. And that can flow into those risky assets like Bitcoin again. So, as sad as it is, and really, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, war actually may be good for Bitcoin as long as it's not in the major countries, right? As long as it doesn't affect, let's say, China, US, Europe. This would be really disastrous for Bitcoin, in my opinion, because you would have just so much uncertainty in these major jurisdictions. But in my opinion, the sad reality is that just like in so many other instances, war is a catalyst, and I think that's why, yeah, the big tinfoil hat believers always say that, there's the puppet masters. That's why they love war. I don't know. Any counter thoughts on this, Fabio?
No, I fully agree. Maybe in the short term, it is bearish. I would say because of
Agree.
two reasons. Because there might be people needing to sell a position to take care of travel, to take care of, let's say, short term things, and also because there are many people that don't understand Bitcoin, that don't see it the way you and I see it. But in the long term, of course, it's an acceleration, and it kind of educates. And so most people act out of necessity. If if you ever encounter hyperinflation in a country like Venezuela or Argentina, you have a very different relationship with trust to the government, to the banks, and to money itself. And I would say the same is true for a place like Greece, where they basically took half of your assets overnight. And if something like that happens to you, it's a big accelerator for, I would say, Bitcoin's adoption. But this is more long term than short term, because initially you lose a lot of capital and you kind of need to rebuild it at in a new system or at a new place. So as said, it is yeah.
Agree. I don't see much more at the moment going on. I mean, the focus really on, obviously, in the Bitcoin space, a lot of focus is on the halving, it's on runes. Personally, right now, I think the US ETF's relatively weak, but I mean, no surprise, we see it in the price action. I don't think there's much divergence there. I think this is very much in line. Price is down, very weak flows, slight outflows net. I know, but I mean, no surprise, to be fair. Let's also be honest. I mean, we've had record days of inflows. I mean, it's just some equilibrium coming in.
So maybe before we go into DeFi Chains community and bake specific topics, there's one caveat or one thing that I want to put into a relationship with just the point in time that we are at. We're right now we are in all-time high territories. Of course, we are currently at, I don't know, I didn't even check before
60.
I came.
I actually just looked 62. 62,
62.
63. Yeah.
And we broke all-time high. We still, before halving, nobody expected this. Of course, were a few people that expected this to be the case, but the majority of us didn't expect all-time highs before the halving. And we're holding up very strong in this area. Normally, it takes us 6 months after the halving to go into that direction. So I think relatively seen, it's very bullish. We're very strong. Even though we saw a correction in the United States with risk on asset, Bitcoin is holding up just fine. So all of this kind of makes me bullish. Just pointing out the obvious news. You have a new background. Did you finally move to Dubai, or where are you currently located? Can you give us some insights on your current location?
Sure. Okay. I mean, look, let's cut through all the BS. I know, like, there's been a lot of rumors and I don't know, people have been talking, whatever. I don't know where all this started. I mean, I have suspicions where all this started, but I'm not going to go into this right now. I was on holiday over Easter. This was actually planned for several months prior all this drama llama started. I book. People know that I book my holidays sometimes a year in advance. I just love that. I love to take advantage of mileage flights. Booking stuff with mileage is just super easy if you do this a year in advance. right? Because award seats are just available. So if possible, I book very far in advance. Hotels are way cheaper. So if possible, I love to book far in advance. So I had this holiday booked for a very long time already. Obviously, at that point, I didn't know about all the drama llama. It completely coincided with having to move, and there was nothing big to it. I know people kind of spin a story out of this, but there was nothing big to it. I just had to move, and I mean, of course, I could have extended, but I didn't want to. We just wanted to have different stuff, and so we looked for a different place. And so we did that while we were gone. We had a moving company. I mean, this is very typical here in Singapore, nothing out of the extraordinary. I think if you're in Europe or something, you're not used to that. But here, this is very common. If you have been as an expat somewhere, you know that. And so we did all that while I was gone. And then at the same time, I don't know why. I do know why, because I do believe that I know someone may have started some rumors that and that I was not going to come back because I was scared of some investigation or something. I don't know. Yeah, but in fact of the matter is, I came back on Saturday. We moved straight away into our new place. It's still an absolute mess because I hadn't any chance to kind of fix my stuff. My kids are, I don't know, besides themselves because they are now wondering where their toys, and they don't fully understand that their toys moved as well. Yeah, so yeah.
Where is the new place?
Sorry, what? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, what did you ask me?
Where is the new place?
It's in Singapore. I'm not going to go into the specific location because I know
Okay.
what's going to happen is people are just going to stalk, and I have no interest in that. Leave me alone. Leave my family alone. It has nothing to do with that. But I mean, I'm clearly in Singapore. I mean, I shot some YouTube videos as well. So yeah. I still have the wrong camera set up. I have the wrong mic set up. I just like, if you see behind me, I still have like 8 boxes sitting here. I had no chance to unbox, and I'll try to do this over the weekend. And then yeah, so that's so maybe one last question that you may be asking: why didn't you change everything and go to the court hearing last Friday? The answer was very simple. I spoke to my lawyers about this. Is there anything that I can change at the court hearing? And my lawyers told me, look, you're just gonna be there. You can just watch, and we can't call you as a witness or something. So if you come, then you just do this because you want to be there. I spoke to the team if they think I should be there, and at the end, people said, look, it's just going to be a drama llama for the family changing all this, and it was not so easy to change flights, get enough seats. I mean, we're now a family of 5, so it's not that easy. And yeah, so at the end, look, I mean, my holiday was really more working remote. It was not really a holiday, and yeah, I mean, would I have loved to be there on Friday for sure? But I could have. I mean, I don't think it would have changed anything. I did all the work prior, and my legal team or my lawyers team are absolutely fantastic. So I think they did a great job. And yeah,
Cool. I'm not going to ask you any further questions on the court hearings because I know it's
yeah,
I don't want to put you in a difficult.
everything that was said is said. I'm not going to comment on that. Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Cool. Um,
Deepa Chen.
Yeah, sure. So look, the only thing that I want to bring up, I had a bit of a rant last week. Just one comment on that. I think it's a good thing that people have different opinions. Pressure makes diamonds, and we should be able to exchange opinions of any sort in public on a factual basis and stick to arguments instead of name calling. Um, and I hope I didn't offend anyone. But one of the major happenings that we have going on right now in the community, so with MetaChain that launched in Q4 last year, we've kind of had let's say the base layer of the Lego blocks that are set in place for other projects and the community and people from the outside to really come in and build stuff. And we've seen many projects building, but I would say right now we have a project that has more hype than anything else that we've seen so far in the ecosystem. It's a project called CHF Sphere. I briefly mentioned them last week. They had their token launch last Wednesday, so a day after last Twitter Space, and they're kind of scheduling this out over 3 weeks. So the first one they had the last Wednesday, sold out in 2 minutes. The second one was today, 2.5 hours ago or so, sold out in under 3 minutes. And it was 4 times the volume of the first one, so many more people were kind of able to get their tokens. And I think the third step is going to be next Wednesday. And look, I'm not saying anything. I don't want to shill them straight up to you, but it's definitely something interesting going on within our own ecosystem, because um, the one or two guys working there and being active in the project, they're super legit when it comes to marketing. So a lot of people outside of the DeFi chain community, they have a few eye pairs on them and a lot of hype. So yeah, check them out, make up your own mind. Next Wednesday, I think, is the last time you can really get your hands on this before they go live all the way. And yeah, that's the interesting thing that I wanted to bring up. Other than that, I think it's business as usual. A lot of eyes, even in the Bitcoin in the DeFi community, are on you, Julian, and on your co-founder Yuzin, and on the court date. It's just how it is, and I think that the finality or leaving this behind us is probably very, very bullish for DeFi chain in general. So yeah, that would be my update on the DeFi chain happenings. Can we turn this around, and could you give us a little bit of insights what's currently happening, going on at Bake, and what we maybe or maybe not can expect over the coming weeks?
I made a tweet on Friday. Maybe read that as well. I reflected briefly on. I just made a quick statement on Friday, and then made a statement on Q1. Kind of reflected on this. I think the stuff on the Q2 side that you're going to see is just. I think we have the super solid base now on what kind of product services we have. We have on the one hand the exchange, we have on the other hand all the smart bundles, we have the alpha desk. And so Q2 is really going to be more and better of these things. So quality and quantity of these things more. So better smart bundles, more smart bundles. There's a lot of questions around self-rebalancing, auto rebalancing smart bundles, maybe customizable smart bundles, more options with the smart bundles, partial selling of smart bundles. So all this. So not that it's not a new category, but like just optimizing this user experience, easier clicking, easier tracking. Obviously, on the exchange, we have, I think, over 500 different trading pairs already. We obviously want to add more. We want to make this more efficient. We want to make it cheaper. Obviously, we want to make the user experience better. So it's just more of everything there. And look, I understand that the winding up application is one of the key things that's just like keeping us from succeeding on a lot of ends. We're doing well, but it's still the main thing that keeps us from a lot of things. And so obviously, yeah, we hope, fingers crossed, that we're going to have positive news there. And then with that, I hope we can really kind of not only have a really successful product, but like a very successful uptake with the customers as well. On the alpha desk as well, there will be some really exciting options where we can then work on providing access to certain things. So it's just, it's not that there's not suddenly this new category coming. It's still all the space where cash flow, there's cash flow. We want to add that as well. And so that's really the key focus at the moment. Team is really committed. I think team is obviously was also anxious about Friday, was very interesting for the team to kind of see how that experience was. And yeah, now I think they're really laser focused on that Q2 and just on that success. So yeah, I'm quite excited. It's a really good time. Sorry today. I mean, it was really buzzing in the office. It's good. So yeah.
Cool.
We leave it at that, or do you have something, please?
No. Hard stop for me at,
that's why.
At 45. But thanks for everybody for tuning in. Sorry for the technical problems. We're going to cut that out. If you missed part of the first part of the space that we hosted on the Bake side, please make sure to either tune into the podcast or on the YouTube live. Everything there will be recorded and in the end edited without the technical issues that we had on Twitter. And of course, yeah, see you all next week.
Yes, hopefully the correct time and everything. So hey, have a really great week. Happy halving. Let's all follow that. Looking forward. See you next week. Fabio, thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone. Cheers.